Hi, everybody. Welcome to another One Take Wednesday. I am going to be discussing why Liam had to stop coming to work with me today in this one take. The reason for it is just because I feel like it was really something very important and something that was definitely very serious that could have gone extremely too far if I wouldn't have prevented. And so I'm really proud of myself for what I did differently in my life to make it better for my son. So, as I had said, Liam does not come to work with me anymore. He goes to my sister's now instead. But in September, he may be starting daycare. The reason for that is because he was getting lead poisoning. Obviously, I think I've talked about before that I work at a scrapyard. So, we're around all different types of metals. We're around batteries, lead weights. I sell parts. I work in the office. I'm around the semis. The office where I'm at was right attached to the semi bays, which is where all of the semis and bigger equipment would get repaired. And so Liam did definitely come into contact with different types of metals and different types of things that he really shouldn't have. And I didn't really think it was a problem at this time because he wasn't showing any signs that he was sick or anything, or that he was that there was anything wrong with him. And so I wasn't really too worried about it until at his 9-month appointment, they said that he had to get a lead test done. He's hanging out with me right here. Do you see him? Hi, Liam. He's wearing my t-shirt right now because he wanted to crawl inside my skin, so I put it on him. And he's been happy as a clam ever since. But all right. He used to come to work with me, and at his 9-month appointment, they said that they had to do a lead test, which is common, I guess, because my sister said that her daughters both had to have one done at 9 months too. And so at his 9-month checkup, they did a lead test for him, and it came back at a 5. If you guys don't know anything about lead tests or lead levels in the blood, 4 is considered normal. 5 is considered where they need to give out the information, but it isn't high. And then 12 is hospitalization or treatment, where something seriously needs to be done, where they're gonna take it extremely serious, right away. Let's solve the problem. So Liam, when they tested him, he was at a 5. So they had called me and they said, hey, you know what? His lead levels were just a little bit high. They had done a finger poke, and so they're like, why don't you come back in? We'll do a venous draw in his arm and see if that was accurate, to see if that was actually his lead levels. And so 2 weeks after his 9-month appointment, I went back in with him and he was tested again. At that time, he was at a 6. And so they're like, okay, it's getting higher. Why don't we figure out what's going on, try to eliminate these things, because I had told them that my boyfriend and I both worked at that salvage yard, because at the time Justin wasn't working out west. He was working there, and so he came in contact with batteries and lead weights and everything every day. And he uses the same bathroom as Liam and I. He uses all of our things because obviously he lives with us. His clothes are washed in the same washing machine, and so they had me take strict precautions to see if that would help. So whenever I would wash his laundry, I would have to wash his strictly by himself, which I did anyways because they were dirty and grubby. And then I would have to do one hot washing machine load or rinse cycle, whatever. After I would do his laundry to kind of clean out the washing machine, just get rid of all that nasty stuff. And so that's what I started doing. And then whenever Justin would shower in there, and if any dirt or anything was on him, or it was a day that he had messed with batteries, or a day that he had messed with lead weights or anything that contained lead, I would scrub the shower. I would completely, thoroughly re-clean it. And so it was getting to the point where I would probably clean the shower 2 or 3 times a week. And so then they gave me instructions to come back in and get him tested at 10 months. So 10 months rolls around, and he went back down to a 5. That was his lead level, was a 5. And so, what are you doing, silly goose? And so they're like, okay, it's going down a little bit, so just continue what you're doing. He can still come to work with you. Just take these precautions, and we'll test him in another month at 11 months and see if anything has changed, see if these precautions that you're using are still helping, and if it was just the fact that he was around it, getting it from Justin or through the washing machine because it can be absorbed through your skin, or if he is actually coming into contact with it at home. Like the paint, we live in an older house, and so they thought maybe it was the paint, maybe it was something in our water, and so they just wanted to eliminate the fact that it wasn't Justin and I's like carelessness, I guess you could say, for not thoroughly cleaning everything after he had came home. So at that time, we continued on what we were doing. And then at 11 months, he went in for another checkup, and they tested him again, and he was at an 8. And so they're like, okay, you know, what you're doing is not working. Like, you need to send him somewhere differently, or figure out where it is, first of all, to see if it is at home or if it's at work, just to see what. So yeah, at that point, they told us that we should definitely think about having someone come out, whether they recommended it and it went through my insurance, or whether I just called someone local and had them come out and I paid for it myself. So that day, I mean, I definitely did get worried just because of like how it had jumped so far in just a month. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to call someone, you know, in a town nearby to see what they can do and how much it'll cost. And so I called Post to Pillar, I think is what it was called, out of Fargo, North Dakota, because that was the closest place. And they drove here to do that for us. They said that we could get 10 wipe samples and a water sample for $350. And so that is what I did. And I think it was a day, or no, I think it was the same day that I had called, that they had came later that afternoon around like 4-ish. And so they came down to my work area first. They were going to use 5 wipes for at work and 5 wipes for at home. And then they're going to do the water sample at home, because that's where he bathed. That's where I did all his dishes. That's where his laundry was cleaned. And so that's what they did. The places that they cleaned were not cleaned, but the places that like they swiped, you know, like those little hand wipes that like come in those little packages, like at McDonald's or whatever, like Burger King, that you can get to like wipe your hands before you eat. Like that is the wipe, like that's what those little wipes looked like. And like they just folded them right back up and like stuck them in the little packages, like wrote on there with a permanent marker which sample area it was from, or like which number it was, and they had like written down where they had sampled. But the first place that they had sampled was the shop wall. And when we got the results back, that was 130 micrograms of lead content in a 1 foot by 1 foot area. So it was like 1 square foot. Like that's how much it was. And 10 is like the allowed limit. And so it was extremely high. It was like 13 times higher than what it was supposed to be. And so that, at that point, like we definitely knew that that's where he was getting it from. The second place that they sampled, sorry, I had to write all these down because I couldn't remember them. The second place that they sampled was Liam's walker, because at the time he couldn't walk and he was just walking around in the walker. Like that's what he'd play in, you know, and he just would follow me around, or you know, I'd hold him, or he'd go to the different ladies in the office, or, you know, just do whatever. And they tested his walker, and that was at 15 micrograms of lead content. And that also was supposed to be at a 10. And so that was high. So he had definitely came into contact with lead, like on his walker. The third place that they sampled was the front desk. The front desk had 13 micrograms of lead. So that was definitely high because it was only supposed to be 10 also. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, we knew that he was coming into contact there. And then the rest of the places that they checked, like the back desk, the bathroom wall at the body, or like at the parts office, sorry. And then his crib at home, our hallway floor, the kitchen floor, some of his toys, and then the fridge. And they like tested like on top of like they did like a sample of on top of our fridge and then like a light fixture because they wanted like somewhere that had like dust, and that's like where they could find it. I'm not sure, but those are the samples that they also did, and those came back as normal. Like it wasn't over the limit, you know, it wasn't anything to be concerned about. So it was definitely concluded that he had gotten it from down there at the yard, or like at the scrap yard that I work at. And excuse me. And the water test that they did, for water, I guess you can have 15 micrograms of lead in like the water content. They had just like this bottle of water, asked me a whole bunch of questions like if it had been used within like the last 10 hours, or no, it was 5 hours, and I was like, no, you know, no one's been home. I've been at work, you know, like no one's used it. And it came back at 1 microgram, and 15 was allowed for the lead content. And so he was not getting it from home whatsoever. And so we definitely like decided from that point that he was no longer going to be coming to work with me, that's where he was getting it. And the Pillar to Post also recommended that we got all of the long-term employees that had worked there tested, and everybody's lead levels came back normal. None of them came back higher than they should have been, which was so relieving for me because I was so worried about Liam and so worried about the other kids that had been there and so worried about the other people that had been there. And the clinic also told me that being exposed to lead really doesn't affect you hard if you're like 10 and older. It mostly affects like children like 10 and under, like newborn, infant to like 10 years of age, because that's when it really like messes up with their development and their like their brain and their all like overall wellness. And so that is why he no longer gets to come to work with me. And yes, he kind of had lead poisoning, but we did get it taken care of. And at his 12-month appointment, Liam, that is not a good idea, buddy. Not a good idea. No, I don't think you should be doing that. At his 12-month appointment, he got his blood tested again, and he was at a 4. So, I mean, he definitely went back down to normal, and they scheduled him an appointment for 15 months, which we actually go in September. But he'll actually have been like 16 months by then. But that is when he has another blood test done. And they're just going to check him over again, and I think he also needs shots then. But they're going to test it again and see if what we're doing has helped. I mean, obviously it has, because he no longer comes to work with me. He no longer is around that. So that was, you know, it's been really nice to be able to have solved the problem. But yeah, if any of you guys have questions about the lead poisoning or high lead levels in children, like definitely ask me. You can just ask me in the comments below, or you can private message me on Facebook. It doesn't matter. I mean, when Liam had the high lead levels, like I did do a lot of research, so I do know quite a bit about it. But yeah, if any of you guys have had problems with this, or if any of you guys' kids had this also, like definitely like tell me about it in the comments below. I'd love to read about it. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video. Thanks. Bye.